Greetings once again. It's a pleasure to be back and it's a pleasure to be having this conversation with you. So, this last weekend, I had the opportunity to join the Pharmacy Students Association of Kenya for their leadership summit that was coming to an end on that Saturday at USIU Africa. So, today I'm going to talk more from a reflective standpoint in terms of what were the conversations that we had in this particular forum, but also what are the afterthoughts in terms of my thinking through some of the questions that were being asked, but also looking at it in the sense that what do we really need to do to leading ourselves before leading others? Because that was the theme for that leadership summit. And in our conversation, it was more about wellness, mental health, and building resilience as a leader and as an individual in terms of your leadership career and leadership journey as a person. So when I look at these conversations that we had and I look at the context of it, these are student association leaders from the different universities offering Bachelor of Pharmacy in the country, and therefore then they are entrusted with the responsibility and duty of care in promoting professional development among their colleagues and their fellow students in the different universities. I will look at it as an average of like 300 students in each of the different universities. So then if you're looking at 9 universities, 300 in all of them, that is already bringing us to around 2,700 students who are actually looking up to this leadership to support them, to guide them, and most importantly, to advocate for their welfare and their needs in that different context. It's a substantial responsibility that comes with a lot of expectations, but it also comes at a young age, and therefore that is an opportunity for these leaders to build their leadership skills, to build the resilience within themselves. But it doesn't come from a point of telling them that you have the responsibility, you need to build that resilience, but it comes from an understanding that it is a duty that is bestowed upon them, and therefore walking the journey with them and guiding where we need to guide, but also helping them shape the future of what careers they would wish for by themselves and in their professional leadership journey. So when I look at it in terms of leading ourselves, one of the key things that came from the conversation is there's aspirational desire to have the big ideas, the big grand interventions and actually solutions that solve everything. I think from a leadership standpoint is leading yourself at the most primal and the most, I would say, insignificant activities and things that do determine how you move it forward. When you wake up, do you brush your teeth? Do you clean up after yourself? Just make your bed and all that. I think when we start from having the small things done right, we have the sense of satisfaction that moves us to the next level, and therefore we are building momentum from what we've done today and into what we aspire to do in the coming couple of days and whatever it is that we're looking at. And that sets the stage for us in terms of leading ourselves in the small things, so that when we get to the grand responsibilities and the level of expectation on us as leaders, we can do a better job. And that better job becomes a testament of that trust that was bestowed on us as being something that is actually worthwhile, it is deserved, and we do our best on it. And another thing that I would look at in this particular context, I look at young people mostly, we have big ambitions and big aspirations. It's fantastic. I would say I'm still a young person in my professional career, but also have made some leaps that actually are substantial in terms of professional progress, but also individual growth in that journey. One thing that I've come to learn is that leadership is about being humble enough to acknowledge that you don't know everything. It would be best actually if you knew everything, but it's not possible, and it's the most impossible thing that can ever happen, that you have all the answers, all the solutions, and all the possibilities for what people expect of you. So giving yourself grace enough to acknowledge that I'm doing my best with what is within my purview, and what is within your purview could be the resources, the networks, the relationships, and most importantly, your knowledge that you have at that particular moment. Tomorrow I'll get new information that actually might make all the insights that I'm sharing with you seem useless and worthless. But at least with the information that I have today, this is the best that I can give. And I think giving yourself grace to be able to do what you need to do at the point where you are is one great step in terms of your personal development, but also in leading yourself, because then the advantage of that is you acknowledge your infallibility as a human being and as a leader. It gives you the ability to empathize with your fellow colleagues, your people who will be entrusted with a leadership responsibility, to take care of them by acknowledging them. They might make mistakes, and that mistake they'll make is not because they are less than, it's not because they are inadequate in one way or the other, but it is because they are at a level of limited access to the information, and therefore they've used the best that is within their disposal. You might have different information that might actually make you do the thing differently from what they've done, but that information is not private. They're not private to it, and therefore then the question is, can you extend them that grace? But then beyond extending grace, can you give them access to that information to help them make the right decision where they need to make it? That becomes the next level of you understanding as a leader and being gracious enough for yourself, to the others, and being empathetic in your leadership journey. Number three, beyond leading yourself and being empathetic to other people, I look at it from a point of putting in structures and actually knowing that there are mechanisms that will guarantee things happen the right way, when and where they should happen. And I would say that is one of the critical developments that have happened in leadership, in the sense that, for example, when you got into office as student leaders in whatever context you are elected in that process. And therefore, that election gives you the opportunity to socialize your ideas and manifesto to the people. They are entrusting you by voting for you because they believe in your ideas, they believe in your capability, but they also acknowledge that you might not do everything, but they know that you are able to push into the next level what they aspire for. There's room for progress, and that is what you represent for them. You represent hope, you represent progress, advancement, and most importantly, safeguarding of their welfare and well-being in whatever it is that they're doing. That process is important. And when you are in leadership, also establishing processes to ensure that the process that got you there is sustained, but most importantly, you put new processes for continued engagement. You're giving them hope, you're giving them that commitment, and most importantly, you're inspiring them to want more, want to do more. So how do you make that happen? In your leadership, do you have forums and engagements where you can talk to your people? What does it mean for you to talk to them in the different avenues and forums that you have? And most importantly, when you want to do something and probably they want you to do something, how do you get feedback from them? But also, how do you critically negotiate and argue for this particular issue, so that at the end of the day, the decision that is coming out of it might not be the popular idea, but it is well thought out, and actually the rationale behind different alternatives and options are well understood and well discussed. That is the opportunity as a leader, because then you're giving processes, and that process builds trust. One thing that I've noted, and actually in one of my previous videos I talked about the failing of our current president of the country by not building trust and actually earning that trust from the people. Trust is the fundamental pillar and foundation of every relationship that we do have. If I trust you, I'll work with you in whatever it is that you're telling me, and I'll follow you in whatever you're doing. But the very moment you betray that trust, it's unfortunate that most times people cannot give you another chance, and even if they give you another chance, it's given from a point of testing your capabilities, and therefore you have to do so much more to earn that trust. In your leadership journey, when you are elected into positions, the trust that these people have in you, it is your responsibility to defend it, to protect it, and do everything to keep it there. Having structures helps you. Finances are key issue that people will talk about in leadership. How do you manage your finances? How do you build trust? By actually letting people know how much you get in that position and how you're using it and all that. That becomes a key value chain in terms of you building trust with them, representing them, and having those systems in place. That is a fantastic move that you need to make in your leadership journey, putting up structures. And in my professional life, in my business entrepreneur journey and everything, having structures has always helped, because then when you have structures, people have something to look up to, and they have something that gives them guidance on what needs to happen at any one point in time. And it also gives you the discipline to follow through in whatever needs to happen. And when somebody was to err from doing the right thing, they have controls in place, and that is your investment. I would say your insurance policy in that kind of leadership position. So you need to look at it in that context. Another thing that I would look at in this particular situation is when we looked at the mental wellness aspect of it. And I think we understand mental health is a big thing. It's a problem that we're all contending with. There's a lot of pressures. There's a lot of challenges that we're dealing with as young people. But as we deal with them, beyond extending ourselves grace, it is also understanding that what are the probable drivers, diagnosing what the probable problem could be, but also what could be the enablers and drivers of it. And in my context, I would say, if you want to lead yourself better and lead others without suffering the mental challenges that might arise because of the different stressors and challenges in your life, you have to do a life audit at a personal level. Ask yourself, what am I doing with my finances? What am I doing with my social relationships? What am I doing in my academic journey? And how am I investing in the right things to ensure that I have that buffer of security and stability in my personal and professional life, and all the other different facets that I'm talking about, the social, cultural, religious, different facets. And if I'm investing in them so that they can anchor me enough and protect me in terms of the different dynamics of what I'm dealing with, then I'm in a better position. Then ultimately it opens up possibilities for you to weather the storms, to build resilience, because you have an anchor position. But unfortunately, most of us, we let go of all these other things and leave them to chance, hoping to come pick them when we need them. When you come back to pick them when you need them, they might not be there, or they might not be strong enough to give you the anchor that you need. So in leadership, it's a matter of having the fundamentals right and saying, in terms of my finances, this is the level of discipline that I want, this is my lifestyle, this is my capability, and this is how I'm going to work with it. So then I don't expect too much, and if I need too much, I need to ask myself, how am I doing my work in terms of structuring my financial income, revenue streams, and all that as a leader to be able to afford the lifestyle that I want, to afford the things that I need to in that context. You are in school, academics is the key thing that took you there. The question is, how am I investing enough time to get the good grades and to get through with my pharmacy education? Do you plan accordingly, other than getting waylaid and doing other things that might not be fundamental in terms of your academic journey? Doesn't mean you stop everything, but it's about finding balance, but understanding why you're doing it and to what end, and putting in the structures to help you do that in a critical and strategic way that is fundamental to you. I think those are key things that we need to understand, and those are key aspects that we need to also know. Another thing in leadership is about delegation. Unfortunately, delegation comes in from a point of giving people the responsibility to do other things because you don't have all the time in the world. When you delegate responsibilities and tasks, also delegate resources and the authority to make those decisions. One of the key things that I've seen in leadership in most contexts, people delegate responsibilities so that in case something goes wrong, we have somebody to blame, but we don't give them the resources they need to do the job. We don't give them the authority to make the decisions so that when they make a decision and it actually doesn't work right, we want to feel like it was supposed, they did not ask us. That is a problem. So delegate responsibilities and actions to things to be done, but also delegate the resources and the authority to make that call to that person, so that then you are nurturing leaders who have the autonomy and the power to make decisions by themselves in their leadership journey. That is your role as a leader, and that is one of the key things that you must be able to do in your personal and professional development. Most importantly, check in with your people, have conversation, get to understand how the different dynamics in how you're working is helping them get to where they want to be. If you do all that, you'll be in a better leadership position, and I think you'd be enabled to serve, and most importantly, you'll be able to grow at your personal level. The last thing, this is a lesson and an insight that I draw from my professional business journey and all that kind of work. I would say people are willing to give you solutions, people are willing to talk and share insights with you. The question is whether you're going to ask for those guidance and that insight from them. If you're able to ask for insights, you will get the answers, you will get the guidance, and most importantly, people will hold your hand because you've asked. So unless you make the ask, nobody's going to help you. And therefore, in leadership, be humble enough to say, I don't know this, how would I do it better? I want to get guidance on how to do X, Y, Z. The more you ask, the more relationships you build, the more support you get, and therefore you're able to serve in a better way and in a more impactful way. One of the key things that have helped me in my professional, personal, entrepreneurial journey is having conversations with people. And I would say humans are generous people with insight, with knowledge, and with support. And that has been a very critical component in terms of my professional and personal development journey. Take advantage of it in your circles. Reach out to whoever it is that you need to reach out. If it's me, please do reach out. I'll be more than glad to support and walk the journey with you. Beyond the summit, and I think this is a question that came at the end of it, and this is the last statement that I'm making in this particular one. We have dynamics in our professional development that people are contending with. How do I make the transition from school into employment? The job market is not in a good position. People are not getting the job they aspired for. Some of them don't even know which paths to start pursuing. I would say understand that the dynamics and the times are different, which is true. But as much as they are different, reach out to people, have conversation, ask them. It doesn't mean that you will have all the answers. It doesn't mean that you need to be clear that this is the path that I'm following. But being exposed to so many possibilities makes you know what the possibilities are. And when you know what the possibilities are, you can at least find something that you hate less or that you like more. And that is one thing that you can start from. And then you build from there. Build from something rather than waiting to figure out what you really want, and make this information accessible to all of your other colleagues and associates wherever you're working and in your different universities, so that you make it accessible to as many people as possible. This is the mission as to why I started the Youth African Farmer Voices YouTube channel Conversations, because then when I share the insights that I have with people, I help somebody map out their career journey in whatever way they want to. And that is my joy, because then there will be more people in different places of influence and of power because they had access to a YouTube video, 10-minute, 15-minute video that made them see a different path of practice that they never knew was possible. And if that happens for you, that is a win for the profession, it's a win for you, to the community. And that is the best world that we could ever be. I wish you all the best in your leadership journey. I wish you all the best in your professional journey. And let's make pharmacy great in service of humanity and in service of those who have entrusted us with the responsibility and the duty of care. If you want to have a conversation with me, do reach out to me. LinkedIn, I'm available. On YouTube, you can share the comments with me, whatever question that you may want to ask me. I'll be more than glad to share. And beyond that, I'm with African Pharmaceutical Network, doing the work that we do best in terms of opening pathways for professional development, but driving access to safe, effective, and quality medicines in Africa. Thank you and have a good one.